Everybody, welcome back to Wicked Good Sports. This is At the Buzzer, and we're joined, as always, by Jack Tiernan. Jack, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, man. How are you?
Doing well. I'm ready to talk a little bit about our hometown team, the Boston Celtics. Even when things, aren't happening, we still find a way to talk a little bit about them because we're a Boston show.
Of course.
Right? We got it. So what is the latest going on over in Boston?
So, lots of stuff going on, even though it's the offseason. I think we've had a conversation about this, or maybe passively, but like the NBA is basically like a reality TV where there's always something going on or something blown out of proportion, which is awesome. I love it so much. Like, there's the Tristan Thompson comments about Chloe because of Lamar Odom. Like, that shit is hysterical. There is obviously Team USA stuff going on, and we've got our boy Jayson Tatum out there representing, hurting his knee, good stuff.
Yeah.
Great
and
stuff. Yeah, super fun. Really happy to talk about that. And we have Jaylen Brown hanging out with Kyle Kuzma, and Kyle Kuzma stinks. So we hope he doesn't rub off on JB. And then we got Summer League coming up, man, and lots of hype around Ime Udoka, Brad Stevens, of course, in that new role. And we got to figure out what our roster is going to look like next year because we don't have Kemba Walker, and unless Marcus Smart's running point, I don't know what we're going to do at point guard. We can touch on that a little bit later, though.
So what do you want to talk about first?
First, let's talk about a guy that probably a lot of people haven't heard about, and that's Yam Madar, right? Okay. So Yam was drafted in the second round, midway through. I think it was the 45th overall pick of either last year or the year before. Don't remember which. But either way, he was intentionally a draft and stash. You draft this guy, you leave him over in his whatever league he's currently in, which is the Israeli Basketball League. He plays for Tel Aviv, and he has some insane handles. He looks like he could be the next Rajon Rondo type of find. And I don't want to... I know that's kind of a hot take because he's never played a minute in the NBA. But if you go and watch his highlights, he pretty much is like Rondo, but can shoot the three ball. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Like, this guy could be something here. So after Kemba was traded, there was a lot of talk about maybe we'll bring over Madar and see what he can do. Or maybe Marcus Smart will run the point. But the issue with Madar right now is that he's locked into a contract with Tel Aviv, and they're refusing to let him go, basically. So there's no buyout clause or anything in that contract. Basically, he's stuck in Israel unless the Celtics buy out that contract and bring him over here. Okay. And there's no, there's no number for that. So basically, the two teams have to work it out. And it already seems like Tel Aviv is not willing to do that. So we'll see what happens.
So,
the pain in the butt.
You don't think there's any chance that the Celtics can, come in, or do you think Tel Aviv is just playing hardball? We know how much money you have, so,
Yeah. I think it's that. And I think they know that he is a good player, and he gives them notoriety for the time being, and I think they want to hold on to that for as long as they can. Even though we drafted him, right, it's kind of too bad. You let him play with us for a year, and we're going to keep him again because this is the contract he signed. So, yeah, I think it's hardball. I think they're probably going to milk the Celtics for, a couple mil maybe. But depends on what Brad wants to do. If Brad thinks if he thinks Yam is the next big thing, then sure, great, let's get him over here. But if not, I think he'll just let Smart run the point until next year when we can bring over Yam.
Yeah, that's fair. That's so interesting. It's such a weird...
It's wild.
...situation.
Yeah. Overseas basketball's weird.
Yeah. No doubt about that. All right, what's next up on the agenda for the Celtics?
Let's see. For the C's, we can talk about what's going on with second-year players, right? Or not second-year, third-year players now. I always forget that Grant Williams and Carson Edwards are not sophomore season anymore.
Right.
So we'll talk about their now upcoming third season. So you've got people from that draft are Carson Edwards, right? He was drafted early second round. Grant Williams was middle first round. You've got Romeo Langford, who has been kind of marred by injuries for a little bit. And those are really the three big names. I guess you could say Tremont Waters as well, but I think he's pretty much as good as gone, if not relegated to third point guard duties, maybe fourth at this point. I don't know if he's ready to run an NBA offense. Anyway, so we're looking at a couple of interesting cases, especially in Carson and Romeo, because Carson really got a lot of did not play coach decisions on his record for the last couple of years. But he's also started a couple games, which is kind of weird because that's not something you normally see.
Right.
Granted, he started those games right before the trade deadline, so I wasn't sure if Brad was trying to up his value or something along those lines.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, you don't know. But then there's Romeo, who was just out for a while, and then he really came in and played some rock-solid defense on some good dudes. Like KD, for example, was locking him down. And you're like, okay, maybe there's something in this kid. Like, maybe he runs the point. Maybe he and Smart can alternate that. So I think those two are kind of mostly Romeo because he's been hurt, whereas Carson just kind of is a streaky shooter for the most part. Don't know what you're going to do with those guys. I think this is really kind of a make or break year for both of them. And I really hope that Carson gets some playing time because I don't know what it is about him, but there's something about a dude who can absolutely shoot the lights out that I'm like super into. So if he, it makes me think of Eddie House, right? Like, and I loved Eddie House. So if he can come in and be Eddie House for the Celtics team, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah. For those of you who are not old like us, Eddie House is a really solid situational player who could come in and provide a spark for the Boston teams of the late 2000s where they won and went to some NBA finals. So,
man,
it'd
loved
be nice
him.
to have a player like that. Yeah, no, he was great.
It sure would. That dynamic, and I don't want to speak for what could be, right? But the dynamic of like Glenn Davis, Nate Robinson, also some guys in like the late 2000s. Would be a nice dynamic to have, like Grant Williams type of deal coming off the bench, shooting some mid ranges and like actually hitting them instead of putting up bricks. And like Carson Edwards, like something about that would be sick to watch. Like I would love that group of young dudes to really step it up.
No, and I mean like it's an underrated and often unappreciated part of what made those teams so good. You had players like Kendrick Perkins, who now is probably way more known as a media personality, but back then he was a really solid, like, situational player. He'd come in, control the board, provide, like, spurts of dominance in that way. I remember in the 2008 playoff run, he had a game where he had just, like, a ridiculous amount of rebounds in it, and so, like, yeah, that's really what gives teams like the championship ability. It's not just the superstars at the top, but the bench players and the players who come in and fit into a role.
Yep, totally agree. And I think that's a great transition to Grant Williams, right? Because if Grant Williams can come out and be a solid, like, small ball center, 3-and-D type of guy, then I think he can have a really good spot, like 7th, 8th guy on this team. I think that's kind of his ceiling, though. I don't really see him getting any better than that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say now, but we'll hope for him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's a funny dude. I like him a lot, but it's like, that's not why a team keeps you, unfortunately. And I really like Grant, so I really like a lot of these young guys, actually. Like Fast PP, right, and all the other guys. Like, they're a great group of dudes. And, watching their development is interesting. I think Peyton Pritchard is also a guy, if we're talking second-year guys next year, who could take a huge leap forward. Maybe he's a starting point guard, right? Who knows? I think it really depends on what happens with Yamadar. But I think there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of like volatility for these guys' stocks this coming year. So it'd be cool to watch, I think, for sure. But at the same time, potentially very frustrating.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, what's next for the Celtics?
What is next for the Celtics? I think that's what we can talk about, right? What are your predictions, you think, for this coming season? I mean, I'm not sure what to expect. I'm really worried about Tatum's knee right now, which is like maybe it's only something we talk about for the next week and then it's completely gone, right? But I'm worried about his health. I think Jaylen Brown can come in and not necessarily carry the team, but I think he can do it pretty damn close to that of a job. And I think we talk about, again, the volatility of these young guys and if Brad makes some moves this offseason. I guess how Hal Horford fits in, right? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, so that was a great move, or well, I hope it's a great move. Maybe my personal bias of liking him as a player is getting in the way, but I do think they're not quite. I don't expect them to compete for a championship with the roster that they currently have. I do think Brad Stevens needs to add more, and I hope that he will be aggressive. One of the things we talked about when he came into the role is, we need someone who's more aggressive than what we've had the last few years in order to really take that next step, because they're always right there, but they're never seemingly good enough to take that next step.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I totally agree. We're close. I hope we can. I hope we can do something this offseason. Flip a couple of young guys for something, maybe a couple
right.
picks. I don't care. Just get Jalen and Jayson some help.
Right. No, I agree. But yeah, I think if that's it, are you all good for this one?
I think so. Yeah. Oh, one more guy I forgot is Moses Brown. By the way, with the guy we got in the Al Horford trade, such an afterthought, and I feel really bad because I think he actually could be like a rock solid board dude.
Mm-hmm.
But in the words of Kawhi Leonard, Boardman gets paid. Let's see what he can do on the boards this season. And will he knock Taco Fall out of the team and like the rotation in general? I really hope not because I fucking love Big Talk.
Right.
But you don't know. I don't know how NBA caliber Taco is anymore.
Yeah.
That's all I got, unfortunately.
He's a fun player, but yeah, no, I know what you're saying. All right, Jack, where can they find you online?
Best place to find me is Twitter, and that's at Jack_Tiernan. Got some NBA takes on there. Definitely some Celtic stuff as the season winds back up to Summer League again.
All right, so you can find him there. You can find me on Twitter at @theFakeBMar, that's BMARR. It's sports, it's Big Brother, it's jokes occasionally, a lot of retweets of memes and stuff, so that's all you get from me. You can follow our slate of channels. This one is, of course, Wicked Good Sports. We have the main channel, Wicked Good Everything, and our podcast channel, Better Radio. On Twitter, we're at Wicked Good Sport, and also at WG Everything on Instagram, Wicked Good Everything. On Twitch, at twitch.tv/Wicked Good Everything. On TikTok, search Wicked Good Everything. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.